Something a little different today. Excited to try this out. A Fujifilm XP130 waterproof camera. Picked this up at a local, kind of like a big box store for 50 bucks. So you can see pretty nice size, fits in the pocket. So you've got your gasket for weather resistance, memory card. Like I said, 16 gigabyte that came with it. And the battery, 700 milliamp hours. So I don't know how long this is gonna last for me. Specs wise, we've got 20 meters or 65 foot waterproofness, 1.75 meters or 5.8 foot shock proof. So if you drop it, it's gonna have a pop-up every time telling you to make sure your door is closed. I don't know, maybe I just need to take some photos. So you do have a zoom lens on here. It's built into the camera. It uses like a periscope type zoom. If you've seen recent smartphones, I think it's a Samsung, some other brands, they have that periscope zoom, and they took it from this. These have had these type of zoom lenses for a long time. So it basically means a lot of the actual mechanism is inside the camera to the side itself, and then right where the lens comes out, it's got a prism or something, or mirrors, to direct the light to the side. It's an interesting design. You have drawbacks to it and just quality, but I'll be curious to see how this turns out. I'm gonna try the zoom here. Oh man. I can already tell that the tracking autofocus is not the best. It's definitely gonna take some effort to get decent stuff out of this. That one's not too bad looking. It's overexposed. Let me go back. So what I can do here is use exposure compensation to hopefully improve on this. There's native 2/3 EV comp. That tracking, especially when you've got a very uniform look, the same color, not so good. Let's give you an example here. See it? Now it's gonna work. Whatever. I do really like the form factor. Nice fit in the hands. You have a lot of limitation, but it's interesting to at least challenge that and try to make the most out of it. To use the dedicated macro mode, I have to get out of this auto tracking. Got center, multi-area. I'm just gonna do center and then switch it to macro, close up. I don't know what type of macro this is, but it's not that close. Here's full wide angle video mode. This camera does have some type of stabilizer in it. And when you shake the camera around when it's off, it sounds like the actual sensor shifts. So I'm gonna do a quick test of GoPro versus the Fujifilm. See what it looks like in a video situation, 1080p, 60 frames a second on the Fujifilm. The GoPro is in linear plus horizon leveling. One of the nice things about this camera is that when you zoom, it's very quiet. I've had other cameras similar to this that made really gross, loud noise when it's zooming. But this one, very nice. Here's a good example of zoom range. So we're at full wide. I'm gonna zoom in here, full zoom. with something like this, it's about basic versatility. Trying to get some of this water stuff here. Here's a good example of tracking focus. Take a photo and then it switches back. But yeah, not too bad when the background is very uniform, but see it's wigging out a little bit. See how much background blur I can get with this. I'll zoom all the way in, focus on this foreground object, and then take the EV comp down, do -1. If you get close enough, you zoom in, you can get a little bit of blur in the background. But that limits what you can do in situations when you want that look. Let's try a really close wide angle. So a little shell. So I'm basically walking on where water would be some points in the year. So not the best spot. You can use zoom in video while it's recording. That is a nice feature. I'm gonna try an HDR photo real quick. HDR could be interesting, assuming it doesn't get a lot of blur from the shaking. It does have a tripod socket, so that would probably be good with that mode. Let me see what else we've got. Multiple exposure mode. Take 2 photos and superimpose. So that would be like ghosting look to it, I think. So that's interesting. It's more of a film look where you do a double exposure. My main issue with these cameras is they don't give you those full manual modes. They give you some quirky stuff. There are very few waterproof cameras that have RAW mode. And it feels like a weak excuse to not put those features in, especially these days when you have phones, you have so many options. Just fill these things with photographer features. Make them useful. This double exposure mode shows you an overlay of your first photo on the second photo, so you get a nice preview of what you're making. There's a panorama mode. Try that real quick. Oh, it's a 360 degree. It's a nice little grip on here. Helps you hold it. When I have large gloves on, I think this will be pretty decent. Good large shutter button on the top. Back buttons, there's a split between the zoom, so it's 2 actual buttons. Sometimes it's like a toggle thing, but the 2 buttons make sense. Some of the buttons are pretty tiny, but you shouldn't need those. It's mostly this D-pad thing. I do have a matte screen protector that I cut from a cell phone screen protector. So that might be slightly changing how I see through the screen. But in general, the screen is not the best ever. And actually, it's probably better for smaller hands because of how it comes in towards the grip side. I really do wish camera companies would invest more effort into these waterproof cameras. Like I said, there are some that push the boundaries a little bit. You've got that Olympus one that has the faster lens. I'd love to see some 1-inch sensor waterproof cameras, nice fast lens on there that's high quality. Preferably having something like this that the problem is fitting a lens like this into those cameras. Even a fixed focal length would be nice. All I'm doing here is adjusting the EV comp a few times, taking different photos, seeing which turns out the best. From an ergonomic standpoint, very nice. From image quality, that will remain to be seen, but I don't expect too much from it. Turn it on, I can zoom in, focus, select my area, focus, press the shutter, everything with one hand. That changes it for me actually, even if it's lower quality. Being able to do all that with one hand is very nice. Besides the water resistant, waterproof nature and the drop resistance, I think one-handed operation is the key feature of this. The challenge will be making photos with this that don't feel like snapshots. Finally, something different. I can tell my pinky is supporting the camera when I'm doing the one-handed focus, and it is putting some strain on it. So that's not perfect, not ideal. That was the first outing with this Fujifilm XP130 waterproof camera. Really nice build quality for what it is, especially what I paid for it. I wouldn't pay full price for this specific camera. There's just not a lot of functionality to it. But there are things like the HDR mode, the double exposure if you're into that, a ton of other scene modes. You can do color filters, but you're not gonna have RAW, you're not gonna have full manual. You can adjust the ISO if you want. You can do a few other things, especially the EV compensation is the biggest thing to get some creative use out of this camera. Nice zoom range for what it is. Nothing extends from the camera, which is good. It does have a flash, which you can mess around with. And overall, good operation, full one-handed operation, which I like. I do think using the tracking autofocus is good with this camera. It's not perfect, it struggles in some situations, but it allows you to do that one-handed operation while still focusing where you want. You can do focus and recompose with this camera. I don't think it would be as much of a problem because you're gonna have a pretty large depth of field most of the time. But I still think the tracking autofocus is nice to use with it, especially one-handed. First photo outing. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it. Scott Photography Bonsai. If you did enjoy it, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and the applause feature helps out a lot as well. Thanks.